To talk about the current football frenzy in the AFL, Alex Caiafa joins us on TheInformer. Now, since our last report, the Adelaide Crows, that had not been able to win a game all season, are unbeaten. They've won 2 in a row. What's going on?
They've hit some form, haven't they? I don't think anyone would have expected them to, at one stage, win one game, let alone 2 in a row, and especially against GWS, who, oh goodness.
It made us look pretty ordinary. I'm talking about Carlton.
Yeah, the funny thing with that game is Adelaide were in front all game. GWS didn't hit the lead once.
So what did you make of it? What did the Adelaide Crows do that the Carlton Football Club couldn't do the week before?
They just played with a bit of energy, and it was a real mature performance. Their defence held strong. When it just looked like GWS were going to get a run on, Adelaide did everything they could to halt it, where Carlton the week before kind of just let them waltz in and do as they please. And
could you accuse the Giants of being the Jekyll and Hyde side of the season? So when they win, they can beat anybody. When they lose, they can lose to anybody.
I'd arguably say GWS have been the disappointment of 2020. You know, coming off a grand final, I know they didn't play fantastic in that grand final, but they were still there. Then to be, you know, where they are now, it's a really big change, and not in a good way. It's going to be very interesting to see, you know, what happens in these last 2 games, let alone what's going to happen moving forward with them.
What did you make of the Navy Blues and that infamous win now against the Swans, who started like a house on fire? In fact, 6-7 goals up in the opening quarter.
Yeah, no, they started unbelievably. They got 7 goals up, and then, you know, probably halfway through the second quarter, Carlton come out of nowhere and kick 4 goals in a row to bring it back to 16 points at half time. And then, you know, it was a game of it. And then Carlton just took control in the middle. They started to get a little bit of flow going through the middle, and their defence held up, and they actually started hitting targets going forward. And funny enough, when you hit targets going forward, you kick goals. So, yeah.
Let's be constructive. The Carlton of the last 2 years wouldn't have won last night.
No, if we're going by the Carlton of the last 2 years, that game probably turns to a 12-goal loss, you know, if not more. So okay. There's definite improvement there by the Blues.
So it pleases you that, you know, the only thing that bothers me is our next game. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's go back and review the matches that started this round. And of course, we saw Port Adelaide continuing its supremacy at the top of the AFL ladder. They played North and made them look second-rate.
Yeah, no, the Power just looked in cruise control for most of the game. They never really looked in doubt. North Melbourne are clearly just in a bit of a rebuild phase at the moment. So you would have expected Port to get over it pretty comfortably, and they did. Okay.
St Kilda, we've been questioning whether they have got the wherewithal. They took on Hawthorn. There was a little bitterness after the game between the coaches, who have been mates, and also it was the master and the apprentice. What did you make of that, and what did you make of the game? Well, St Kilda, of course, winning, coming out, emerging the victors.
Speaking from game term, Hawthorn actually put up a fight for a fair chunk of the game. It really took all of St Kilda's, you know, might and effort to, you know, get over the top, and which they eventually did in the end. They kicked a couple late goals, which sort of just gave them that little bit of breathing room, and that was it. But the coaches, Clarkson's really not. He's just showing when they lose, it's like he can't handle, and he just tries to.
So is he deflecting to save the players?
Yeah, I think he's really trying to save the players by deflecting it off them. And you know, as a coach, you just got to accept when you lose. You go back to the film and whatever, and you fix it up. You don't go.
There's a reason why he's a champion.
Yeah.
And others would like to be. Okay, let's not look at that game. Let's move on. So St Kilda looking good. The Cats looked awfully good against Essendon.
They were dynamite. They put on a football clinic against Essendon. They really made Essendon, for the first half in particular, they made them look like witches' hats.
Okay, what do you say to the Essendon fans? Are they in a real hole? Have injuries taken a toll of them? Or at the moment they just don't have the game plan to take on the sides that really have got the muscle to cause them trouble?
I just don't think they have the game plan, and I don't think they have the list at the moment too. They still have a lot of holes in that list that they need to fix up before, you know, they really want to consider themselves being up there again.
Okay. I saw a terrific game between the Bulldogs and the Eagles who have looked almost as good as Port Adelaide. Did you see that win for the Bulldogs coming?
Yeah, well, West Coast got four goals up really early in the game, and you thought, West Coast just going to, breeze along and run through here. But you got to give credit to the Bulldogs. They worked themselves back into it, and if they kicked a little bit straighter, they probably could have won this by a lot more than 2 points. So
the Demons I still can't work out who they are.
Yeah,
I still cannot work out who they are, and I also look at the Dockers, and week to week they are capable of beating anybody. And they decided that the Demons were going to be the side they beat this week.
They just make games a scrap, the Dockers, and particularly because it was humid up there and then it started really, raining down there. They made the game a scrap. They made it a really contested game, and Melbourne, when they've won games, have liked a little free-flowing game where they can get possession and go forward and kick it forward. When it turns into a contested scrap like what Freo like to do, they crumbled a little bit, Melbourne, and they'll be really ruining these last 2 losses if they miss out on finals.
St Kilda, the Eagles. Who are you having? It's 6th versus 5th.
Well, I think West Coast will probably get the likes of Natanui and potentially guys like that back. So I'm going to be on the safe side and tip West Coast, but St Kilda need this win a lot more than West Coast do.
2nd versus 4th. Geelong up against Richmond.
Doesn't get any easier, does it?
No, it just
really
gets tougher
does
and
not.
tougher.
Gets tougher. I think you got to back Geelong in the way that they're playing. They're playing some really good football at the moment.
17th up against 13th. It's North against the Dockers.
I'll go the Dockers here. I think the Dockers will do just enough to get over.
1st against 12th. It's the Port Adelaide Power up against the Essendon Bombers.
Again, it's a very contrasting, game, and Port Adelaide, they're on top for a reason. They've been on top basically all season for a reason. You just got to back them in against poor Essendon.
The side that's 8th, the Giants, the flip-flop Kings, up against, again, the Melbourne Demons, who have also done a bit of a flip-flop too.
This game could really determine which one of those 2 teams has the potential to make finals. So a win for GWS could kick Melbourne out completely. A win for Melbourne, and things really get interesting again. I'm going to back GWS in. I know they just lost to Adelaide, but if they get the likes of Zach Williams and Josh Kelly back, that's 2 big names there, I think.
You mentioned Adelaide. Adelaide plays the Navy Blues. It's 11th against, I think, 17th. Go on, tell me, who do you reckon?
You just got to back Carlton in. I think Adelaide. You got to back Carlton in. I think this game means a lot more, obviously, to Carlton than it does Adelaide, and I think Carlton deep down know that they've failed a couple tests before that in GWS and Collingwood. They wouldn't want to fail another test against Adelaide.
Okay, 16th against 9th. It's the Hawks up against the Bulldogs.
Again, another important game. The Bulldogs, need to win this. If GWS loses, the Bulldogs move into the 8. So it's a pretty big game. So I'll pick the Bulldogs.
The Swans against the number 3 team in the comp, the Brisbane Lions, who of course we now know will have the grand final.
Yep.
Should all things stay the same.
Yep. No, I think Brisbane, you just got to back them in, given the talent that they have around the ground. Sydney make a real scrap of games like what Fremantle do, and they make it really tough for teams. But I just think Brisbane just have that bit too much for them.
Too much flair.
Yep.
And Collingwood will complete the round up against the Suns.
Again, another one. Collingwood. If Collingwood win one of their last 2 games, they're guaranteed a final spot, and I think that'll be the week they should get the job done against.
Alex Caiafa, thank you for taking us through that preview and review. If you want to know more about what's happening in the AFL, make sure you join us on The Informer, checking the AFL with Alex Caiafa.
Thanks, George.